the next day he's like, my entire ab wall is sore. My entire back is sore from my neck to my hips. My forearms are sore. Everything is just sore. And I was like, yeah, there's supposed to be like a car accident of an exercise. Like, there's certain things that just hit so many, like, even though you're doing them with good form, there's just so much stress on your whole body. One arm dumbbell rows, bent barbell rows, heavy T-bars. Those things are all going to be rough. Hey, everybody. Welcome to It's Just Bodybuilding. This is our first show in the new year.
True.
Maybe not of the new year, but our first show of 2025. Big Ron Partlow here with Dusty Hanshaw and the producer, Scott McNally. Remember to like, share, subscribe, comment, and
ring the bell.
Yes. Yes. All the way through 2025. Remember, IamMutant.com, major sponsors of the show. So go to IamMutant.com, get your all in, get your ISO surge, and everyone should get on the gear. Dusty and Big Ron are your codes. Dusty and Big Ron. And remember the Think Big Patreon. Keep a producer homed. Check out the Think Big Patreon and contribute to that. Scott does a lot of work on a lot of shows here. Okay, we are coming at you hot with a topic that we want to fire off with. How to get the most out of your gains in 2025. Is there a number? Is it like 10 ways or 7 ways?
We'll see. We'll see what you guys can come up with.
Okay.
All right. I don't know expectations here. We'll call
it
for 2 ways. Perfect.
And just for those that are keeping track, this is the hat I have that's more like Dusty's.
Okay.
It's more of a bend in it like Dusty's. I'm trying to match him today. So we'll see how the show goes. Okay.
I just randomly pulled out a blue one. I like
that. I'm going to ask him for one. That's on my list.
That's good.
Okay.
I got this shirt in the mail, right? I got home from Christmas and this was in the mail.
It's
a mutant shirt with, is that you, Dusty? With the pumpkin on your head?
That's where I look best, is with a pumpkin on my head.
Was that like an old Halloween shirt or something?
I think so.
Yeah.
They're like, yeah, it's Christmas.
I didn't get one of those.
Yeah, I got one.
I don't have one of those either.
They just randomly sent it. I considered it a Christmas gift, so thank you, mutant.
You never know. What size is that?
2X. That's good.
It might have just been a prototype laying around the office, and they thought Scott will love this.
I like that. I like that even better. Yeah.
Okay.
Future collector.
Okay. So how do we start this off? How to get the most out of your training in 2025?
Well, here's the thing. So I have a client. Shout out to Zach, and he told us we could talk all about this. And I've known Zach for a long time. It's a kind of cool situation where we trained at the same gym years ago. He competed as a lightweight bodybuilder, and I coached him through a number of shows. He retires. He's kind of married, moves down to the Carolinas, all that, and he's doing his own thing. And he reaches out and says he wants to get into better shape again. So of course, one thing leads to another, and now he wants to be a bodybuilder again. So we're doing everything he can. I watch his training. His training intensity is not where we want it. And after working with him on this repeatedly, I thought to myself, well, here's the other part. He's training at Dusty's gym. So I was like, Dusty, can you work out with the poor guy? He needs your help. And there are these moments in bodybuilding. It's something we can get in person, those light bulb moments where we figure something out. And take it from here, Dusty. What did you see in Zach's training? Because you'd seen him training around the gym, and I want to talk about, what he got to training with you. And I've got some of his videos. He told me we could play these.
Well, the first thing was when you reached out, you mentioned that you wanted me to take a look at his training, and I immediately responded, I already know his training. I've seen it. And he was training excessively light, really like holding at contractions. I mean, we're talking for like 2 seconds and then going up. But I'm just not one that tells someone what I think. He's not asking, so I don't say anything.
Sure.
So when you reached out, I immediately was like, oh yeah, I already know what's wrong with this training. I just never said anything. So we talked, got him in the gym, and the first thing that went off, we started off on the explode pull down that we used, Ron.
Yep.
We did unilateral, and I said, what do you usually use on this, like a top set? And he said 2 1/4, and I was like, oh, No, because he's not a weak guy. I already knew
Yeah.
that. So I let him get warmed up, and I was like, all right, we went from 2 to 3. So I just immediately passed his top set and was like, this is a warm up. So give me 6 reps. And then I was like, all right, let me see. We did 3 1/4. We ended up finishing at 4. And the thing that we focused on was explosion with violence on the pole. You know, I want that positive portion of the movement to be violent, and then screw the pause at the bottom. It's literally been proved to do nothing. And then just control the negative, get a deep stretch, and go again. And the main thing I was trying to hammer on, which is a little bit tricky, is I'm asking you to do 2 things. 1, be violent, and then 2, control right afterward. We're kind of finding that rhythm. But he quickly picked up on it, and I could see after his first working set, the light bulb was starting to go off.
Nice.
Because I could see his body was hurting. So if you want to show him a couple, maybe do you have any of the videos he was doing before?
Yeah. So here's a before on the, this is the exercise, right?
So it's like perfect form.
Yeah, very proficient. When you look at this,
looks like he could be doing like, you know, you don't know what the effort is like. It's hard with you don't see his face too, so you're not sure like if he's grimacing or not, you know. But the reps look pretty easy.
When he showed me, he was even pausing on top of it like this for like a long count. You know,
he was like holding at the bottom and squeezing. Yeah. And then here's the first thing I noticed is like this is a working set, right? And he's about to finish this side. There you go. And now immediately just grabs the other side. Like I would call that a warm up. If I'm actually pushing to my absolute limit, I can't just immediately grab the other handle and go. You know what I mean? Like it's going to take me a few seconds to catch my breath.
Well, even if you do, the left side's going to be, you're not going to be able to give it the same focus. I mean,
right.
That's pretty obvious.
So here's the before. Let me grab the after because I believe we have that one too. Let's see here. Here it is. See if I can just drop that on. Oh, yep. There we go.
This was his drop back set.
Okay. Three and a half.
So another full plate. Another full plate aside.
Yeah, and this is after he did 4 already for his top set, which was a little heavy. So we came back down.
Yeah, but
here
there's nothing wrong with
dress.
Yeah. You could see like he's there we go.
Yeah.
You could see like there's a lot of effort to like try to finish that rep. Yeah. That's the difference. That's a huge, I'm glad we showed that. That's reminds me of so many guys over the years where that light bulb, you don't always have a friend like Dusty that you can send your client to train with.
Yeah.
To help with the light bulb. You know what I mean? Like I remember just trying to like explain the light bulb to guys over the phone. I remember one of my guys that I help, he was like sending me videos when he used to train in Calgary. And I was like, man, your sets look great, but they just don't look like you're nearing the end. Like they all just, all your sets just end.
Yeah.
You know, like they don't look like you get to the end. like there's a difference. The set has ended, but
the book on the last chapter, you just closed it.
Yeah. You just like finished the set, you know? And you know, once you get that sort of, all of a sudden you get some videos where you're like, oh, now the set is getting to the end.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and it's just it's a big deal. It's a big deal. It makes a big difference over time.
Well, the other thing that we looked at, because I just asked him what his workout was, and he was going from that movement into a dumbbell row and then into a machine row, which was essentially another dumbbell row. And I'm like,
yeah,
you're hitting your lat, and your lat. You're not hitting your upper back, you're not hitting your rhomboids, you're not hitting your
every movement has the same elbow travel, you mean? Like every movement
the same movement. And I was like, I said, look, let's go over, we'll do dumbbell rows, but we're going to do them differently. And I had him rowing with his elbow out to the side and up high into the pec line, you know, just get that upper back before we went to his last machine. And the highlight really for me was we did 2 working sets on the explode, 2 working sets on the row, and then we went over to the last machine, which was, we only did 6 total sets. And when he was trying to put his straps on, his hands were shaking. And I was like, there we go. It's hard to put straps on when you train like this, you know? it was definitely one of those things where, and it's funny. I love the way the guy is too, because I said, cool. I want to see you put this same effort into all your training.
Yeah.
If you struggle with that, reach back out to me and we can do a leg day or something like that to find it. But essentially it's the same stuff. And I never heard from him after that, which I didn't follow up and ask. So I finally asked Scott, I was like, how did he feel after that? And it went well.
I think he probably just didn't want to bother you. You know what I mean?
No, that's right. That's what I thought. I was like, and I was like, I should have reached out. But, so I think the first thing I can think of as far as how to improve your training this year, the first thing, which I just covered, which is make sure you're not doing the same movement 3 different ways.
And you know what it is too is, and I know because we talked about this. So he was training at a different gym, and we had a workout set up for him. And the other gym had more limited equipment. So we were working with what he had. And then he found out about this place. He's telling me, hey, Scott, there's this new gym. And he says, I think that's the gym Dusty trains at. And I was like, get there, because environment's going to be a big factor. If you can get at a place where guys like you are training, I mean, I feel like you had a big hand in making Muscle Factory what it is now. Like you kind of lit a fire there. And when people see people training at that level, it makes you reach down deeper and train harder too. It's contagious, So, but the downside of that is he got to Muscle Factory and they had all sorts of shiny new equipment. So he wanted to still do some of the stuff that we were doing before, but he also wanted to use all the options that the new gym had.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Caroline Iron has Ron knows who's up there. He's got a ton for back. And it's just understanding. I mean, like Ron said, that the easiest thing if you don't really know your way around is just where's your elbow pattern? Where's it moving?
Yeah.
If you just watch that's going to tell you essentially the differences. It's the same reason if you saw me doing a bent over row and then I went over to the T-bar row, the chest supported, I'm not grabbing the overhand handles. Now I'm going to grab the vertical handles, with the close grip. So now I can work that lat. So you want to be thinking of that stuff. And then the second thing which is I always push it back to when I reached out to Chris. And this is something I tell to my more advanced clients. When I first hired Chris, I got all my stuff and I said, hey, is there a specific way you want me to train? So I sent him that email. Boom, boom, boom. Is there a specific email you want to train? And he sends back, yes, fucking hard, send. And I read that and it was so funny because that is the answer. In the world of let's analyze how you do this, that, and the other, it's like, no, are you training hard? And I mean really hard. Like you said, Ron, you don't want to be looking at a set and going, did you send me a warm-up? Because I wanted to see your working set, Right. I prefer, and I've got a few clients that I've talked about before on the show where they're so ballistic and train so hard, I have to actually kick them back in the other direction. But that's easier to do than to teach the intensity. I'm like, all right, you're crazy. Good. Now let's, hone it in a little bit. So what are some other things you guys can think of?
Well, before we got any further away from it, I wanted to show a couple more of his exercises too, since we had them.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
We don't have to watch the whole thing, but here's his before on the dumbbell row, and it's this when I saw. Style. What's that?
This is just the regular style, but
yeah. So this is what he was doing before, right? And it's when I saw this set, and I didn't even have to see the technique. I saw the amount of weight he had in his hand here. And I was like, oh, this is where I was like, you know what, man, we got to get you training with Dusty. So
that does not look like a big enough dumbbell and he's got muscle too. Like he looks good.
Yeah.
Great. So check that's actually that's a necklace charm of mine I left at the gym.
Wait, what?
The dumbbell?
Oh. And this is funny. When I saw this, I was like, this looks like a Dusty row now,
Yeah, that's
I see your
What's that?
influence in
That's
this.
more like a 110 or something, isn't it?
Yep. And that's the violence he's pulling up with, which we wanted to. So I told him after this set, I wanted to see the negative slow down a little bit. Just not really slow, but just feel the body work
feel
on
the
way
hang
down.
Yeah, feel the hang. Yeah.
And his hand went out. That one was great. His hand went loose, and I was like, "Oh, we're not done. Grab it again. Keep going." But that's at least the intensity. See, now it's getting tighter, which I love.
Well, you can see the action on the back. You can see the muscle on the back rolling over, and it's good. One-arm dumbbell rows are an exercise. I've done that to a few people on. I had a guy train with me, and when we did one-arm dumbbell rows for the first time, and afterwards he goes, "Man, I always used to think those were a finisher." He goes, because he thought one-arm dumbbell rows were like a light dumbbell, like pinky squeeze type of movement. And he was like second exercise in, and I was like, "Let's do dumbbell rows." And he's like, "Oh." So he told me afterwards, he's like, "Oh, it seems a little early for a finisher." And then I like started rolling out the 150 and the 160, and he's like, "Oh," and then he's pulling the 110 and like got him up on the 120, and he's like, the next day he's like, "My entire ab wall is sore. My entire back is sore from my neck to my hips. You know, my forearms are sore. My everything is just sore." And I was like, "Yeah, they're supposed to be like a car accident of an exercise. Like, you know, there's certain things that just hit so many. Like, even though you're doing them with good form, there's just so much stress on your whole body. You know, one-arm dumbbell rows, bent barbell rows, heavy T-bars. Those things are all going to be rough."
I always had a lot of struggle with my low back trying to do barbell rows. So for me, the dumbbell row was like my big thing because I could use that arm to support myself. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and then I could
you're
go
still
heavy,
loading the whole back, but there's a little bit more. Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah,
they're fun. They're fun.
All right,
I think another thing.
There.
Yeah, another thing you can do to make sure you get the most out of your workouts in 2025 is make a commitment to yourself. This is what I used to do when I competed. I'm not so good at it now that I'm a gym owner. There's always something going on. But back when I was 100% bodybuilder Ron, I would get to work really quickly in the gym. So like I might hang out after my workout and socialize and eat my food and joke around with the owner and have a Diet Coke and tell stories and blah, 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 you know. But when I walked into the gym, I got to work right away. And that's really a great way to be efficient and take advantage of those, like, you know, that like get going sort of brainwave mentality thing, you know, play a good song in the car, get like really ready to go, know what your first exercise is going to be. You know, I talked before about how some days you don't feel like training, but as soon as you start warming up on the first exercise, you can't stop. Now the ball is rolling, right?
Yeah.
Like you've started the process. So now there is no hesitation now. You're warming up on the hack squat now. Like this is going to happen. So just accept it and just jump in. So, and I think a lot of times people, they're tired from work or whatever. They're like, "Oh man, I got to go train back. Oh, I'm just going to chill for a minute and go scroll through my phone. And oh, there's my buddy Dave's just coming into the gym. I'll chat with Dave for a few minutes." And you know, wind up chatting with some guys for 10 minutes. Like seeing, 15 minutes has gone by and they're still standing by the lockers. They haven't started training yet. And I think that you really do get the most out of your workouts when you keep your head clear and you get to work. Like if that's you, if you have a problem with that stuff, really make a goal to just get to work, get to that first exercise, get going. And you'll be like, "Oh, I'm underway now. This is going to happen." And it's just, it's something about intensity and purpose and intent and all that stuff, you know. And you find you actually have more time to like actually chat with people after, if that's your social time, because you're done training now, so you don't have that like nagging thing like I got to get going, you know, over your shoulder.
Right.
So
Ron was what did Victoria say? She used the term holding court after the workouts. So I don't know if everybody knows this, but I think Victoria has known Ron longer than Dusty has. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So she had said
Victoria since like the aughts.
She said, yeah, she's like, Ron was always the guy that like he'd have his stories, but it was after the workouts. It was like at the juice bar, at the shake bar, after everybody was done training, that Ron would hold court after the workouts.
I love that.
And I could totally picture that. You know what I mean?
I want to get Ron a gavel. I want to get Ron a gavel.
I used to sit around with everybody. That's a fun, you know, when you train at like a really hardcore gym like I did back in those days.
Yeah.
And everyone's just, you know, you're sitting around eating your rice bowls and drinking your shakes and showing each other, look at these amps. Look at these crazy amps I got. Back in those days. Yeah.
That's great.
Well, I hope this motivates people.
I was going to add one more thing that I think that I've been working with a ton with my my professionals and my parents, which is the busy people who have so much life going on that what's really helped them is having some sort of a system, some sort of a ritual that they walk through every day before they even get to the gym. It's like when I play, I'm sure you were the same, Ron, like when you're getting ready for football or when I was getting ready for hockey, like I put my pads on the exact same way every time. And there would be a moment like I'd go from like chatting with the guys, and then next thing it's like, all right, it's about time to get ready for warm-ups. And I shift the focus and everything comes about now. So with my clients, a big thing I suggest them doing is whether it's in their car before they walk in or at home before they leave the house or before they leave the office, is to sit down, pull out their logbook, look at their last workout that they did that they're doing today that they're matching, write it back down, all their stuff they did last week, have an idea of kind of visualizing what the workout's going to be, so that when you walk in the gym, kind of to go hand in hand with what Ron said, you're no longer thinking about the kids or the office or what needs to be done afterwards. You're in a mindset of, we're here to do this now. Because I think people walk into the gym, like you said, Ron, they get on the leg press, but they're still like, man, I got to make sure I send that email when I get done here. And what's Samantha wearing over there? And like,
Samantha
just
good.
You want to like lock in when you walk into that gym. Because when I think back, people will ask, like, oh, you ever have a workout where you just had to leave? And no. I've never gotten to the gym ever. I mean, obviously you have better workouts where things just move.
Sure.
But I've never not in my entire career, I've never walked into the gym and been like, oh, I'm off today, because that switch was turned on before I walked in the door. And I think it's very key because especially in this day and age where we got the cell phones, the leash, as I call it, and all these things, we think we're more important than we are. Like, you can disappear for 90 minutes. No one needs to know what you're doing. Lock it down. I mean, I put do not disturb on my phone, and there's only 2 numbers that aren't in that gym with me that can dial through. And they know before we go to the gym, do not text or call unless you need to. So other than that, it's my time. And I think that's really, really important, because you wouldn't go into anything else of seriousness thinking about 35 things. And same thing with your training partners. I've talked about this before. I had a training partner one time that we're in the workout and he's kind of off. And I was like, what's wrong with you? He goes, oh, I'm having problems with my girlfriend. And he started talking. I go, stop. I care. I just don't care right now. I was like, so either leave and fuck off or mute that shit and come back and then we'll talk afterwards. And he walked away for like 10 minutes. I started working out. He came back. We had a great workout. And then I was like, all right, so did you need to talk? And he goes, not anymore. I'm like, perfect. Let's go. Because I just, that's the way I think.
I love, like, this story can go 2 ways in my head. One is that Dusty helped this guy. And then the other one is Dusty just like, doesn't give a fuck.
And they're both kind of true.
Both very accurate, Yeah, you just can't interrupt the workout. That's against the law. One thing that she'll have already left either way.
I have a goal is, as Dusty's friend, I don't ever want to hear that tone of voice from Dusty. That tone of voice where he's like, listen. Da 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 da, or da 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 da. Like it doesn't matter what the words are. I don't want to hear that tone coming towards me. I know I've messed up. If Dusty starts talking to me like that, I'm like, oh fuck, I did something.
You got to rethink your actions at that point.
The thing.
So Zach told me.
By Dusty.
Zach told me after we kind of had a debriefing, and the number one take home for him is he's a lot stronger than he thought he was. And I think that that's going to be true for a lot of people out there, I mean, the like you said, what was the word you used, Dusty? Not aggression, but it was like not
violence.
Anger, violence. Yeah, there's a level of violence that you need to step up to in those working sets in order to do what we're trying to do. And I think that goes for most people who are listening to this podcast. We're all trying to grow as much muscle as we can. You know, it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be something that you can just coast through your workout and now you go to the next thing. And unfortunately, I feel like the majority of mainstream gym goers are not stepping it up to that level. You know what I mean? And it's easy if you're not training next to Dusty to kind of just fall into that. Yeah, I did my workout, you know, don't try too hard, just get through it, you know? And
right.
I think
we
Scott,
can get
the
through
biggest
that.
thing
We
is,
can recover from
they
it.
don't,
We can grow.
They don't know.
Yeah.
You know, because like when we got to the dumbbell rows, I was like, what's your top set? And I don't exactly remember, but I think he said like 60. And I'm like, no. Like,
that makes
and
sense.
I didn't know what his strength was, but he's a big ass kid.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, show me like 6 reps at the 60s. And he did. And I was like, all right, grab the 80s. And he did 10. I'm like, cool. Now grab the 100s. And his eyes are getting big. And I'm like, we're fine. And when we got done, I realized that there was room in the tank with the 110s.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But that was more of a mental thing. And I think the other side of the coin is everyone's so afraid of like, you're not training your ego. Like if he'd have grabbed the 100s and pulled one, I was like, oh, no, never mind. Yeah. Back down to the 90s. That's okay. You know, but it took seconds to realize. I mean, as soon as he said 60, I'm like, I mean, when we were in prep, Nikki was using 80s.
Yeah.
Like, no, you can definitely do more than 60 or whatever the number was. So I think that a lot, and I tell my clients this all the time, people have no idea how strong they are.
Yeah,
mentally, physically. Yeah. And it's, you know, it's one of those things where it's like, you got to allow yourself, especially for something like a dumbbell row. Nothing bad happens if you're wrong. Like, you're not getting under 600 pounds squat and you're going, I hope I can do this. It's like, well, that's a good point. Ease up, killer. Like,
it's typically a very low cost overestimation for a dumbbell row. You just have a shitty looking rep.
You just don't pick it up.
Your reps are garbage, and it's, you know, you get to 4 and you're like, that was dumb.
Yeah.
You know, and that's okay. But I it was really fun, and he definitely it's really nice to see somebody where he's got such a great, I think because of his years of training the way he does, the ability to engage the muscles explosively showed quickly, which is awesome. You know, I talked about that recently. I got in an argument with a guy on one of my videos because people don't realize that if you watch, Ron can attest to this, when you watch Johnny Jackson or Branch Warren train when you were a kid, you're like, what is that? That's terrible form. And when you get more advanced and you watch them in person, you realize Johnny Jackson can feel every centimeter of that movement like that.
Oh, yeah.
You know, whereas I train loosely with form, but I couldn't do that. I'm not feeling like now I'm just slinging it around, you know, so it's finding that spot that works for you where you can get maximum power and still get great contraction. Like when I trained with Branch, when we guest posed one time, I was stunned to watch his muscle move that explosively in person. I'm like, oh, I'm going to shut my mouth. Like, right. That is, I mean, he's doing curls and just yanking on a cable. And in a video, you're like, that's not doing anything. And in person, I'm watching the bicep about explode. And I'm like,
yeah. And he's catching all the negatives too.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
one thing I was kept in my head as far as explosiveness goes is the intent to move the bar quickly is one of the large factors in activating high threshold motor units. Mm-hmm. So the muscle fibers that don't want to do the work, but you need to stimulate them. And you get to those fibers by being explosive and pulling as hard as you can on a bar. Even if the bar is moving slowly, the intent is for you to move the bar as fast as you can.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's one of the things to think about, you know?
Yeah, I do the same like when I'm rowing with a barbell. If you watch my warm-up set, it's so ballistic because it's 135. But I'm pulling that hard with 495. It just doesn't move like that anymore.
Right. Yeah.
So,
okay. Clean shaven Scott, what's next?
Hey,
Yeah,
I got
exactly.
some big news for you guys. Now, I know
About
you
your
said it doesn't matter who Derek works with because he needed a new coach. I know you said it doesn't matter who he works with. Anybody's going to be able to do the job. But I saw this literally just before we were getting ready to do the show. So I wanted to share it here with you guys. Check that out.
Yeah. I talked to Chris this morning. I said, congrats. I said, good luck with Derek. And he said, yes, Derek is going to be the new Prime Minister of Canada, and I'm going to be his finance minister.
That sounds like Chris.
Chris
And then
answer
he said-
101.
He said, we're going to be giving pro cards for posing. Pro cards for best poser.
It's
Oh,
amazing.
amazing.
Yeah.
That's Chris.
Yeah. So that's the goal. Derek's going to be the new Prime Minister. Chris is going to be the finance minister. Chris said capital gains goes to zero.
About time.
Yeah. He's going to sell some of those condos finally.
So we had a
So
bunch of
I think-
questions.
I think that's a good move. I think that's great for Derek. I think Derek
Absolutely.
will do great with the type of coach. You know how there's like the micromanaging coaches, like spreadsheet coaches that are telling people like, you know, I want you to have 625 milligrams of potassium today, and I want you to drink 732 milliliters of water.
Yeah.
I think Derek's the type of bodybuilder where he knows what he's doing. He knows what he's capable of. He knows his body really well. He's a smart kid. He pays attention to absolutely everything. He's got a good team around him with like, you know, his family and all that. So I think a guy like Chris Chris is more of a guide you and keep you from making mistakes type of a coach.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And I think Derek will do really great with Chris. That type of, keep it simple sort of. Because that physique of Derek's, you don't need to complicate anything.
Yeah.
Like he's clearly, you know, he's got all the goods. You know,
He's been nuts
come in and
since the beginning.
change the way. Got to change the way he trains because
Yeah.
new coach in town,
Yeah.
right? New
Leave
coach in
my mark.
town. Yeah, you leave my mark. Yeah, doesn't
All
need
right.
any of that.
So listener questions, we got a bunch of them. And this one I thought we'd jump in with. I don't know who this is. You guys probably do. Rico Verhoeven. Does that sound familiar? He's a heavyweight kickboxer. I'm going to pull his pictures up. Let me find him. Yeah,
Okay.
This is a question that says, can I piggyback off of the want to look like a linebacker question and ask for the show, can I look like this Rico guy? So let me see. I'm going to have to pull him up. No.
Sounds like a champion.
Yeah, I'm out.
All right. He looks like he's got
I
a
wanna
good
look
head
like
of hair
Derek,
to start.
but
So
here I am.
there's that. Oh, okay. Yeah. So this guy, here's what he looks like here. Let me pull this picture up.
So somebody wants to look like this guy.
Yeah. Like, how would they train? Because the question was, we had one of our Patreon guys said, hey, you know, I don't necessarily want to look like a bodybuilder. I want to be built like a linebacker. What would I have to do that? So this is Rico
You
here.
just be a bodybuilder with subpar genetics, and you look like a linebacker,
Yeah. That's pretty much it, isn't it?
right? Linebackers are, or you just be. Linebackers are guys that have good enough genetics to make real money that they don't have to bodybuild.
So here's
Oh, I made
Rico.
that mistake.
I don't know how tall
mean-
he is, but if he's,
you would
he's
just-
heavyweight.
Oh, he's got long arms.
You would just, he looks like he's way over 6 feet. You would just engage in bodybuilding practices. And, you know, you got to remember, some guys look like that by trying to bodybuild as hard as they possibly can. And that's as big as they get. That guy, he might be that size just from doing push-ups and hitting the bag. We don't know what he does.
Yeah.
We don't know if he's a genetic phenom of, you know, how his physique looks or not. He might just be, you know, basic weightlifting with conditioning training, and that's how he looks. And it's just a total default accident.
Yeah.
And then other people might have to engage in Dusty-esque training intensity for a long period of time with all the trimmings to achieve that physique in like a 5-year window. So, you know, I don't know. That's my non-answer. Is that a non-answer? What's that?
I mean, I agree 100% with your non-answer, because at the end of the day, what everyone is saying is that they want to put on a certain amount of tissue.
Yeah.
And then what it
bodybuilding.
looks like is dependent on you. I mean, like if I was going to say something specific, like he's obviously doing plenty of ab and oblique work based on looking
Right.
at him. He's
And
not
if he gets
concerned-
punched all the time, that's what
so he wants that strong. So you would probably do some weighted midsection work that you wouldn't do if you're trying to keep a wasp waist. But yeah, at the end of the day, really all you're saying to me when you say you want to look like someone like that is, I want around that amount of size attached to my body, how it falls.
Right.
Yeah.
Because you can't make someone look like that. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
trust me, I trained to look like Dorian Yates, and this is what happened. Didn't work out.
Yeah. 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 Yeah, exactly. You know, I tried to get calves like Dorian, but it never occurred.
Dusty had a bunch too. Dusty put out your question thread this week. Again.
I did the same. Did you catch this? I just reused the photo because I've used it a couple times, but I used the one from last week that said last episode 2024. I'm like, Nikki tells me after it's been up for like 2 minutes, and I look, there's 12 questions. I'm like, it stays.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Too
fine.
late.
That shows how much attention I put into it to getting the post up. I did have a guy ask, "Are you guys living in the past?" I'm like,
I saw that too.
What did he say? Oh yeah, he is.
Are you living in the past?
Hey, on that note, do you guys think that what was better, gear from the what was it, the 1990s? How does it compare to today?
I never had it.
Way more expensive. Holy smokes. Stuff was so expensive back then. Factor in inflation. We're paying $20 for an amp back in the 90s is like, what's $20 now? Like $60?
Yeah.
Something, yeah. It's insane.
Paying $1,000 for a kit of growth that has like 128 IUs in it. And like, who pays $1,000 for a kit of growth now? I don't know.
And our 1,000 isn't what it used to be. So
yeah, well, that's like 3,000 now.
Yeah.
Like Jesus. You used to have to like to use gear, like you couldn't be broke, and now you can be like broke and use gear.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
There is a huge
back in the day. Yeah, it was like, you know, if you're doing a good cycle, it was like, oh, that guy must have like solid financial situation.
Or he would have if he wasn't doing this.
Yeah, he would have. Yeah.
Nowadays, it's like, no, he just makes it in his bathtub.
He's totally
cheap.
broke.
It's pennies.
Yeah,
It's pennies.
Broke. You afford food.
He thinks that's primo.
Yeah.
Okay. What about this one? We got another one. This was from our stream on YouTube. By the way, I should mention too, guys, if you want to take part in the next show, comment on YouTube, because we tried to take a bunch of questions there. This is one of those would you rather questions. So he's got, 3 of them. A, would you rather win the Olympia but have to stop training at 30 years old due to injuries and health issues? B, be top 5 in the Olympia for 5 years, but have to stop training at 35, so 5 years later, due to injuries and health issues. Or C, be top 10 for 10 years, but have to stop training at 40 due to injuries and health issues. Having to stop training means training at half of your current weights and intensity.
Ooh.
Who has the most money?
Yeah.
Does a one-time Olympia guy do some good investing?
Yeah. Would it be a one time that I won in 2024 for $600K?
Yeah. What year, right?
Smart with that money, right? Yeah.
I'll be honest. I'll be Samson for a year. I mean, all options made me broken and sick. So,
right. At least at the 30, I got lots of time to do other things.
Yeah, I mean, the way it was described, honestly, there's only a handful of Mr. Olympias. I would love to be one of them, because all the things that you also just told me that I retired at 30. I basically took up lifting weights instead of training. I'm working out now. and I started investing that money and hanging around. I'm a legend forever because I'm a one-time Mr. Olympia. And I didn't get beat. I just walked away from the sport because no one knew my kidneys were failing.
Yeah. That's health stuff all being equal.
Yeah.
Health stuff all being equal, I'll take the one win.
Well, plus I figure I got more time to fix that health stuff because you just told me I drug out 10 years of health problems versus like the 1 year.
Yeah.
You don't want to do that.
No, not for me. That's actually a great. So we were. Nikki was listening to a podcast about health in life, in lifting and training, and it's something that we were talking about on the way home. Is how it's funny how bodybuilders like to lie to themselves as if being 300 pounds and full of muscle and training and on drugs is drastically healthier than being 300 pounds and eating chips.
Only marginally.
Yeah. It's just a wild thing when the denial that most of us go through. Like I think more people need to have that conversation with themselves before they get into this. Like, where are you willing to take this? And at what point are you willing to do like Ron and just say, all right, it's time to be obsessive about health and looking good, but not looking like a bodybuilder.
Right. Well, I don't know about the looking good thing. I let that slip a little bit.
Comparatively. We got more, Scott.
Yeah. How about this one? What if you sleep in and it throws your meal timing off? Should you just let it slide, or do you just cram all your meals in?
Quit the sport. Wake up with an alarm. I'm kidding.
Take it from the guy who spent 20 years working in the bar, so I didn't get up to an alarm. I just woke up at noon whenever I felt like getting up. Oh, it's noonish. Should probably get up. Yeah, just make your schedule work. There's no magic. You don't have to do anything. Like,
nope.
You know, the whole like early to rise. Well, maybe I stay up late and work late. Like,
yeah, it's bullshit.
Maybe I get up at noon, but I go to bed at fucking 4 a.m. every day, and I'm working from midnight to 4 frantically while everyone's asleep. Like, you know, there's all sorts of different ways to do it. If you like to sleep in on Sundays, nothing wrong with that. Just double up on a meal, maybe. Like, who cares? Like, you know, I've had coaches tell me sleep trumps food.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
So they're like, people like, you know, you hear the odd guy like, oh, I had to stay up really late last night so I could get that meal in. But like, just get those calories in like just some other way. Like, just go to bed, man. You know,
remember
really
there's that was that stint where people were setting alarms to eat in the middle of the night. I'm like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life.
We all went through like the thing I did for a long period of time is I'd mix up some whey isolate with water.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd put it by the sink. And then I just get up to piss in the middle of the night. I drink half of it, go back to bed, get a piss again, drink half of it, go back to bed. So I would do that. I did that for a long time. I don't know if it helped at all, but that was like a bodybuilder thing.
Oh,
no, I don't think that's a bad thing though. I tell clients that too, if they can get the exercise. Like, if you are already awake, but don't be afraid to wake up the next morning and dump it out if you didn't wake up.
Yeah.
Like, it's not. Do not set an alarm. And I tell my clients, you get every single person when they get their diet, the first thing I write is meal order means nothing to me.
Yeah,
move them around how you like. Yeah. I wrote it this way because it's just how I write it. I write the diets based on how I eat, and I also don't care how many meals there are. 6. I write 6 meals. I don't care if you eat 4. If all of this food that I've written down here is eaten between when you wake up and when you go to bed, and nothing is added to it, success, and nothing is missing. Just get all of it down. I don't care how it goes down. Good to go. Because as you get busier in life, you can't always just stop and eat a meal because it's 3:00. I'm like, actual time doesn't matter. So, you know, like when I was in the stores and I had a big order come in, I'm not stopping to eat with boxes everywhere. So I might go 5 hours between meals and then I just eat 2. Or if I'm not that hungry, I eat 1.5 now. And then the meal after that, I have another 1.5 and I'm caught back up again for that meal I missed. It's not a problem. So yeah, if you can sleep in and if you have the luxury of not having an alarm or Nova who wakes you up at 6:08 every morning, you're good to go.
I think
yeah,
it too. If it was a mistake, say like he oversleeps and that's a one-time thing. And I'm with you guys. I wouldn't really worry about it. And even if like you didn't get a meal in that day, okay. But I'll tie in the holidays that we just had. I've had people that were like, oh man, it was a really bad week. And my diet wasn't good and blah, blah, blah. And I did this and I did that. And I'm really disappointed in myself. And the reality is like that one day that you slept in or that 1 week with the holidays, it's not going to make or break anything in the big picture if you take advantage of all the other days. You know what I mean? Like if you do everything right, you get all your food in most like 95% of the time, then when something does come up, you slept in or it's your birthday and you're out with friends or whatever, you eat something up. Like those things aren't going to be, they're not going to make or break anything. And it's a good reminder too of taking advantage of those weeks that you can do everything right. You know what I mean?
No, you're right. Mm-hmm. That's the argument all the time is people get so concerned of what they're eating around the holidays. I'm like, well, if you ate correctly the rest of the year, I tell my clients for New Year's or Christmas Eve and Christmas Day or whatever their family traditions are, I'm like, I don't even want you to think about bodybuilding.
Right.
Just live. And if to you that means you eat 3 bodybuilding meals and a couple cheats, fine. If that means you don't eat anything but cookies and whatever mom makes that day, I'm fine. You will not be worse from that day or those 2 days. And it's enormously valuable. Same thing with the sleep. I mean, if there's a reason, if you're somebody who suddenly overslept and you usually don't, I think that's your body telling you needed sleep.
Yeah.
Chris used to tell me that before, like the last few days before a show. He's like, well, yeah, I was like, what time do I wake up? He's like, when you wake up, we'll start eating.
Yeah.
If you get 1 meal in before prejudging and you slept a ton, I think you're going to be really full because you slept.
Yeah. Sleep's great.
Yeah.
Sleep's great.
I, by the way, blame Jay Cutler in part for the
middle
of the night eating, middle of the night cardio, all that nonsense. Jay.
Yeah. Jay did that one year where he was getting up and going to the gym at like 2 a.m. to do cardio.
Yeah.
It was like his experiment. And that was the only year he did it.
He just wanted to do that to prove that even doing things dumb, he could still beat everyone.
I asked him about it. Because he comes out for Central States with Remy Berminga here in Michigan every year. And I did a little video interview. And of course, he's like really kind and he's really cool on camera, though, even though he didn't really know me at the time. Right. I introduced him, and the first thing he says is, oh, yeah, first of all, Scott, thanks for having me on. And guys, remember to subscribe to Scott's channel. I was like, wow, this guy's a pro. And so I asked him about that, and he tells me, he was like, you know why I did it? To freak everybody else out, because they thought I was doing something special. And then when they found out I was doing that, they thought I was doing something that no one else was doing, and it might be to his advantage. He was like, I just did it to mess with their heads.
That's funny.
I remember that video. He's in there doing his cardio it was a Gold's at the time, and they're vacuuming like around the
total
There's no one else in the gym. There's like him and strippers in the gym.
Yeah.
All right. Important topic for bodybuilding. Hair removal. Hair removal. Do we shave, wax, laser, or nair? Pluck them one by one with tweezers. What should we do?
You get a really good set of clippers, and you just clip her down, and then you just do that. And then when the show gets close, if you're going to use a blade to blade areas, you should do it several weeks out, like once a week, so you get your skin used to it. You know what I mean? And then I usually recommended people, whatever you're going to blade, you should blade it on Thursday at the latest, so it's not like irritated at all for a Saturday show. But I just rely on clippers the most of the year. Just clip her down, stay trim, and then it's easy.
The now that one blade that's out that Norelco makes, I tell guys, you don't have to, if you're not used to shaving, use that. It's close enough. I never, like my legs, I never shave anymore. I just use the clippers. It's real tight. And I didn't learn that until seeing Branch Warren. He's like, oh, I never like shave.
Yeah.
You can't see it. Like, trim down. I mean, you want as tight as you can, but you do not have to take a razor to your skin.
No.
Specifically, if you have sensitive skin, your skin freaking out will show. A little tiny bit of hair coming through the skin that you can see when you look at your arm cannot be seen by the judges.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So get a couple of those, have your wife do the back, you do the front, you're in business.
There you go.
If you don't have a wife, call that one friend, which has been me in the past for friends of mine. I'm like, yes, I will shave your back.
All right.
Terrible.
Something you had faith in that you no longer do, that you would advise for anybody else to be careful of.
Government.
I just read the next one in line. I didn't know what I was getting myself into there.
You actually had faith in government at one point? That's cool.
No, maybe one time when you're a kid, right? When you're young, you're like, oh, they're people like us, and we pick them to help us make things better.
Man, yeah.
And you're like, how much is that politician worth? $300 million. How does that happen?
Makes $160,000 a year.
He makes $160K a year. How is he worth $300 million? Oh, good decisions. Oh, that's a lot of good decisions.
I need to follow his good decisions.
I got one. So it wasn't until I started driving that it really hit me, just the reality of there's that yellow line that separates you from the other side.
Yeah, you're not supposed to cross that one.
No, you're not supposed to cross that.
2 yellows, yeah.
But it never really actually thought about it till I was behind the wheel. It's literally just paint on the ground. There is nothing keeping anybody from coming over there at you. When I got behind the wheel, I was like, holy crap, we do this every day?
Yeah. It's just, that Bill Burr's joke, like, no one knows me, and then if I just steer into the crowd, I'm famous. Right? Like, no one knows you right now. Super famous.
No, that's a valid one, Scott. That's a very.
I'm just a nobody going home from work. Super famous.
No, that's it's actually funny because there are a lot of things. If I were to sit here and really think that, I wouldn't say things that I when I think of bodybuilding, the biggest things that my takeaway is anything that seemed overly exact in bodybuilding proved to never matter. Like we were, when we were nutrient timing and all these little details, and I'm not saying they don't matter. Like Ron says, it's not that it doesn't do anything, but you're doing so many other things incorrectly that matter so much more. We were really obsessed with what type of protein you had before bed and what type of protein you had after you trained and the anabolic window and all these things. And there's a ton of those little things now, I think, that are getting kind of brought back to life by people. Yeah. I saw, you'll love this, Ron. I saw some of Nikki's old programs from a coach she had before we met and before she started working with you. And we're talking okay, so, 16 minutes into your workout, you're going to have 2 of these pills. And then at lunch, you're going to eat this. And then at 30 minutes later, you're going to I'm like, oh my, you did this? Oh yeah, I did it to the letter. I'm like, that is nonsense. Just noise. Your dog barks, so you're muted. But yeah, those types of things are enormously, simplicity is the magic to bodybuilding. For sure.
Yeah. I like the lost faith question though. What did you lose faith in?
Yeah. But my answer was actually serious people, more or less, is something I lost a ton of faith in.
Yeah, mine kind of was too,
They all kind of tied in, actually, as Scott was driving down the road. He's like, so I'm trusting you to stay on that side.
Yeah, it's just paint. It's just paint.
My life is in all of those people's hands, actually.
There's not even there's, how if you go off the edge of the road, you hit the bumps.
Yeah. You don't get
they
that.
they don't even often, there's none of those in the middle either. Like, it's just pain.
I have a great story about that. When I was 16, I was finished high school and was going to head back home for the hockey season back to Arizona from Utah. And of course I did what any 16-year-old did. I partied and stayed up late all night, and I slept for like an hour and like got on the road. And I was just to drive through Vegas because I could stop and get like a big meal for really cheap halfway through. So I'm driving down the road, and all of a sudden I opened my eyes, and then it hit that my eyes were closed.
Ooh.
And it was just as the road was turning, and it was like a bridge overhead. So I would have went like straight into the side of a wall. And you open your eyes, you go, my eyes were closed. I look in the rear view, and everyone behind me is in a perfect line about 100 yards back, which means like I have no idea where I was that whole time. And I'm like, I should probably pull off, maybe get some.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't kill anyone or myself that day, which was amazing.
No.
Who's the biggest bodybuilder that you've trained with?
Oh, biggest bodybuilder that
I
I've
like this
trained
one.
with.
I'm curious.
Did you ever train with Kovacs, Ron?
No, I never trained with Kovacs. I trained in the gym while Kovacs was training. Like,
Yeah.
like, hey, Greg, like that sort of thing. I remember I was doing legs one day, and he was doing incline presses on the Smith machine. And he had 5 plates aside, and he was like doing like working up to his working sets. And I remember him grabbing the 150 dumbbells because that's the heaviest they went at the gym I was at, and just like dummying them on the incline, just like reps and reps and reps and reps. Anyways, yeah. Biggest bodybuilder I ever trained with. God,
I know mine. Jamie is a
there you
monster. When he first signed with Mutant, and he might not be the heaviest or like but as far as just biggest man I've ever trained with was Jamie.
He's huge.
Yeah. I think I did shoulders with Morgan McDonald too.
Okay.
And he's a huge guy. Like he's 330 right now at 6'2". But I think Jamie was like bigger because Jamie's 6'5",
6'6".
6'6".
Yeah.
And he was like 340 off season.
Oh, and also a very lean 340.
Yeah,
right. Yeah, Jamie would be the biggest bodybuilder I ever trained with. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
For sure.
When I was out there with Mutant, he and I were sitting in the back of a mid-size sedan, and his head literally went all the way up to the roof, like all the way up to the roof. In fact, there like the roof cut up. There was a little like bump out.
So he leaned forward.
No, like he had to lean back, and his head went into that bump out. But if he leaned forward, he would he'd hit the front of the roof. Yeah.
Yeah, for
I don't
sure.
think that. I don't think most people, because they never if you didn't meet him in person in his off-season prime, have any idea how monstrous he was.
Yeah, he was real big, man.
Yeah.
Yep. Jamie the Giant in his prime.
Yeah, absurd.
That's a good question, though.
Yeah, I like that one.
I had to think.
When you mentioned Kovac, by the way, when we did that Kovac reaction, which did really well, like a ton of people loved that one. There were so many people from Ontario that commented and said like, oh, I saw Greg train at this gym, or I used to see him at this restaurant. And like everybody had some story.
Everybody has a Kovac story.
They really do. I thought that was cool.
Yeah.
And none of them were like the guy was a jerk. Everybody was like, oh, it was so cool to see him. Everybody liked him.
I've had people tell me all sorts of stories like, I saw him at the buffet one time.
Yeah.
And they were
That's
like,
a story.
and he was like sitting with the boys. So he was like kind of trying to show off, like that sort of thing, like just going crazy. But yeah. Everyone from Ontario, man.
We got to get Palumbo on here. I feel like Palumbo would have some Kovac stories. He'd have some Nasser stories. We get him telling those stories, and I'm sure we'd have some gold,
Yeah. He'd be great.
Okay. Oh, yeah, I saw this
I like
one.
how Scott's running the show here. Go for
Hey,
it.
I'm just trying to keep it rolling. Just trying to keep it
These are
rolling.
good. These are good.
Keep
These are
feeding you
good.
guys
Yeah.
the questions here.
These are good.
Training cues for side delts. And he says, with upright rows and lateral raises, I feel like my traps are taking over the movement. Thank you guys for all that you do.
Stand in a doorway and push the back of your hands against the sides of the doorway. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like just stand in a doorway and let your arms hang, and then just push your hands outward against the door frame. And that's the cue of what you're doing with side raises. It's an outward push, like some guys have a hard time with their side raises. They pull with the hands. They wind up with the hands higher than the elbows. They got all this stuff going on with their side raises. They lean back. There's a lot of front delt winding up at the top, stuff like that. But lean forward like a few degrees, get your head actually in front of your body a bit, and push outward against the door frame. And just see how that feels. That's a good cue.
I
and
like
just
that.
reset how much weight you're using for your side laterals, and make sure that your elbow is going as high as the dumbbell.
That was Chris Cook actually showed me that when I went out to his house that time. Was he taught me to essentially let my hands hang with just the dumbbells in them, almost loosely, and then just let my hands stay below my elbows the whole time, and just follow the elbow up. And it wasn't a like light bulb, because he's like, go grab the 25s. And the way I could lock in on that, and then the nice thing about that was it showed me that because I liked to train even laterals heavy, I could do that as long as my elbows were coming up first. Then everything was fine and they stayed locked in. For people who really struggle with it, I go more the route that Ron was saying. Especially a lot of girls I trained over the years had really dominant traps. And I would just have them open up like they're doing a front relaxed and then do their laterals from there. And I would just tell them, I want the dumbbell to get as far away from your body as possible.
Right. Reach for the wall.
Yeah. Reach for the walls. And then also keep in mind that if you want that middle delt to fire the best, you're actually not pulling directly to your sides. It's slightly to your front. Yeah. A lot of people go directly to their side, and it's like, that's actually not the best way to activate it. It should be from the side. The dumbbell should be in front of you.
Yeah. When you like 40 degrees almost.
Yep. So, and that's a big difference if you hit those right. And if you really struggle with it, do it on cables. Lay down on a bench so that so you can't move your back, and go real light on the cables, and you're going to feel them activate. And will feel when your traps take over on cables.
Right.
Bye.
Okay. Hey,
What do we have here?
Child's going to work.
How about what was that one? Oh, I already know the answer to this one, and this is where genetics come into play too, I think. Do all three of you use a CPap? And the answer is no. The smallest guy out of everybody here is the only person who actually uses a CPap. So
Yeah, I never had to. Even at my heaviest,
I've never had one. No,
that's genetic.
I may have needed one back when I was big. I just didn't know it. But yeah, I sleep really well generally.
Yeah, I never need one either. But if to this day, I can't sleep on my back. But other than that, we're good.
Yeah.
I needed one.
I was
by
lucky.
The time I was like a heavy middleweight.
Right.
Everything went to hell.
Yeah.
And I went in to do some heart testing a year or so ago, and the doctor was like, all right, open your mouth. Let me see your throat. And he was like, oh, my God, you have a CPAP, I hope. And I was like, yeah, I do. He's like, good, because you don't have an airway at all. It's all closed up down there.
Really?
He was like an old school guy,
Just genetically, you could see your throat just.
Yeah. There's something about, I think it's like if your neck is, 18 or 19 inches or larger, the
huge
chances.
Statistic.
Yeah, the chances of you needing a CPAP are really high. I still need one. The only time I felt like I get away with not having one is when I was contest lean, and at that point I'd be like, like upper 190s, and then at that point,
being male and having a large neck circumference are the two largest deciders of whether you're going to need a CPap.
I broke all of those rules all at once.
Yeah, I know. I know.
Let's see. We covered that one. There's the hugest bodybuilder you ever trained with. Just comments. A question about how to keep your digestion in top notch.
I want to go back and look at the week before's too, because we skipped some questions that were
good thinking. Good thinking.
solid with. Let me take a peek on that while you're doing that.
All right. We have occasionally gotten questions about like, hey, can you guys give us a tutorial on, and this guy said any trusted tutorials on how and where to get started with investments. And somebody asked us, could we walk through that? But that's, I know both of you guys have said in the past, like, hey, we're not investment managers,
Yeah. I would just advise people, talk to somebody who does like I have my money guy that handles my mutual funds and all that stuff.
Yeah.
You can talk to somebody and set yourself up to put some money every paycheck into investments and just get rolling that way. That's a simple way to get going. And you're talking to an expert.
There you go.
S&P 500 will minimally perform as good as most things.
If you drop money into that consistently, if you don't want to put a lot of thought into it, and you just put a consistent amount in every month for 20 years,
Vanguard every month, you'll be fine.
Yeah, you'll be fine. It'll take care of itself. Yeah. My financial guy said that most people like us try to overthink and do it on our own, and you're going to lose. It's like if you don't have someone that's going to handle it 100% for you, go a safe route like that, and over time it will not fail you. It never has.
Yeah, S&P is pretty reliable. At least get something that's, growing, because your money is not growing. It's getting worth less and less every day. So that's something to remember.
I think the first step actually that I would push everyone on is, as soon as you can, live on 80% of your income or less. And that 20% goes somewhere.
Yes, every month.
Because that's where most people screw up. I mean, I did when I got younger. Before I was making money, I invested nothing. And when I started making money, I invested nothing. And there was just a lot of lost time and a lot of BMWs. Those didn't do well, believe it or not.
And statistically, keep this in mind, young people and older people that should know better. Statistically, new cars are the wealth killer.
Mm-hmm. Huh. Okay.
They are the wealth killer. The number one way to not get rich is to buy new cars when you shouldn't be buying new cars.
Yep.
Who should buy new cars? People that can afford to buy them twice.
Yep.
That's who should buy a new car. Can you afford to buy it twice?
Yeah,
now,
that day.
Right now.
Could you buy two of them right now?
Could you buy two of them right now? And if the answer is no, then you shouldn't be paying $1,500 a month for a Beamer.
Oh.
And you're not investing any money. You got $1,500 a month in Beamer payments, and you're not investing any money. So technically, the only investing you're doing is in a depreciating asset that's losing money. It's a terrible way to build your future.
Yep.
So, I don't need to tell Dusty this, though.
Exactly. I did it myself.
You made up for it, though, buddy.
I did buy certified used, but just as dumb.
Yeah. Well,
it wasn't much smarter.
Certified used is you're still what? That initial $20K off the lot you don't lose?
Yep. Yeah.
But brand new shit. I know rich guys that are like my brother is an infectious disease doctor. He would never buy a new car.
Right.
He's like, that's the dumbest thing I could who would do that? So stupid. Like he just would, this guy's worth like, what does he make? Right.
Exactly.
Like, it's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
I like that my client's asking this. He says, just started working with Scott a month ago and love it. As a coach, what is one or two of the most irritating things a client can do? What makes coaching someone difficult?
Um, yeah, yeah. Well, not like some people say they're ready to be coached and they want to be coached, right? They swear up and down, I want to be coached. And then as soon as you start sending them stuff, they're like, oh, yeah, like that doesn't work for me. I don't really want to run, my meals. Like, I'd rather do this, and I'm going to eat. I really like having McDonald's twice a week, so it's important. And and even if it's stuff that doesn't matter a lot, it starts to set up the trend of, oh, you're not really listening to me. I'm just sort of advising you, and then you're choosing what advice to follow. And it starts to set up like a situation where, you don't really have control over how you're helping them. So, if you're going to be coached, you have to be ready to be coached. Like, here's a split I think you need to do. This is a split I think you need to do. And you have to be prepared to like do it. I don't know. What else is there?
I would say the biggest one for me that happens relatively regularly is the only way I can do what you're paying me for is if you execute our plan
Right.
consistently over time. Because I have a lot of clients where there's two options of when I don't change a client's program at all. One, everything's working so flawlessly that only an idiot would touch it. And two is they're not executing it at all. And then they will send it. So they'll say like, my diet, I have when they send in their check-ins, Scott, it's like 1 to 10 score, 10 being perfect. How'd your diet go this week? And they're like 6. Yeah. And then it's 6, and then it's 6. And at the end of each email, it's like, let me know what changes we need to make. And not even being sarcastic, I don't even know if the plan we're on right now is correct. I'm not saying that it's correct, but I have no feedback to make that decision. So you have to understand that the only way I know if the current program is correct is if you're executing it perfectly.
Yeah.
Because then I get some feedback that says, oh, this is working really well, or, oh, it's not. And that is a huge, I know we've been there where you're like, how can I possibly change something? The change that we need to make is you need to execute this.
Yeah.
Give me 2 perfect weeks. And
I call it like a,
go ahead.
I'm sorry. I was going to say, I call it like a recipe. Like if we were baking a cake and you follow the recipe, then we see how the cake turns out, right? Mm-hmm. And if we don't like the result, then we can say, oh, let's try using a little less of this ingredient or a little more of that one. And then we bake the cake again, right? Mm-hmm. But if you were like, well, I just threw in some eggs and some flour and some sugar, I don't know how much, then you can't really adjust that,
Yeah, no, that's key. And then another thing that, and I've gotten better at working through it, is understanding that you're not the only client that I work with. So you can, like I tell my clients, like I work for you 7 days a week. You can email me with questions or anything you want anytime, but it does get a little agitating if they start sending in like an email that says, hey, did you see this meme?
Yeah.
And I'm like, if all of them did that every day, I can't do what I'm paid to do. You know what I mean? So it's just understand that like line. And I think that that's really important. I wouldn't do that with my attorney.
Yeah.
And I'm expecting the same result. I look at what we get asked to do as a huge compliment to us. Like you're investing money into the fact that I can help you get better. So I take it really seriously that I do my job well, but I need to minimize any outside junk that doesn't have to do with our goal. You know, it's the same with the check-in. When I see a paragraph on a check-in, I'm like, oh shit. And then I scan through it and realize that most of that paragraph didn't matter.
Right.
Like, oh, it's a tricky line because you're like, I want to know you had a high stress week. That's important. But I don't need to read 3 pages of what that meant. My tire got flat. And then when my tire was flat, then the tow truck driver was late. So you missed a meal? Got it.
Right.
Move forward. You know what I mean? Keep it tight because everything that you send back and forth, I want you thinking as a client is this information that will help him decide what I need for my goals. You know what I mean? And it's the same in the other direction, where someone's saying their diet's perfect and everything's locked in, which just reminded me of something that drives me crazy. I have the questionnaire like that they send through. It's how is digestion? How is this? How is this? How is this? And if I see it never changes, and then I'm like, so the diet was perfect this week. They're, well, no, I missed a couple meals. I'm like, then why does that say 10?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I need all of the data to help you, you know?
Yeah.
So data is key, but just keep it tight. Like, I love bullet points. Missed 2 meals. Check.
Yeah. And then there's also like, I had to run there for a sec, so I hope I didn't miss Dusty mentioning this, but the client that just sends you like the posing video and there's no other info.
Oh, like no weight, no feedback, nothing about training, just.
Yeah. It's like, okay, well, and especially if it's off season, it's like, okay, well, I got a video of how you look, but like, this tells me nothing. Like, how have things been? Like, how is your eating? How is your mental? Like, are you really into training right now? Are you feeling good? Like,
yeah,
you know, just no communication at all is another thing.
I keep my check-in information, like the list of questions, at the bottom of each diet. So when they have the diet,
sometimes they don't
too.
They don't send any of that in sometimes.
Yeah.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, where's the info? Like,
Yeah.
You know. So you got to let your coach help you, and you got to be prepared to just like, I mean, aren't you hiring them so that you don't have to think about stuff? And quit trying to overthink everything they're telling you. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So
there was a gym question or a music question. I have a feeling that would have been for Ron. It was something. Yeah, it was something like, would you rather only listen to one Metallica record, or be able to listen to all the new music out there, but never be able to listen to Metallica again?
Ooh.
Well, I mean, that'd be hard to pick just one album to listen to. I don't know which one I'd pick. That's pretty stark contrast.
It sure
That's
is.
a pretty stark contrast. Like one Metallica record forever, or no Metallica, but everything else.
We said everything new, so that means all the new music pretty much sucks.
Yeah, but that's also hard. Yeah, I might just put Master of Puppets on replay. I'd be okay with that.
Call it a day.
Put Ride the Lightning on infinite replay.
Dude, I had one of those iPod shuffles. It had like enough room for like 1-2 albums. And I put Ride the Lightning on it, and I listened to Ride the Lightning for every workout for about 2 or 3 years straight. So anytime that intro riff comes in, like I was just triggered to start training. So I couldn't listen to it when I was driving.
Like Pavlov's dog.
Yeah, it really was. I started getting aggressive. I couldn't drive. I couldn't do anything else. I had to be in the gym. It was about to go down.
I love that. Yeah. Or when you have a really great playlist for training. So when one song ends, you know the song that comes next.
Yeah.
And there'd be so many times that's happened to me in life where I'd hear a song and I'd expect the next song to be something. But it's not, because you're not listening to your playlist. You're like, you know, somewhere else, and you're like, oh fuck. Yeah.
So I'm going through some other questions because we had so many good ones.
Dusty with his little.
What's one change that Ron would make if you were made prime minister?
That's a great one.
I'd vote for Ron if I were in Canada. Dusty?
Oh, absolutely.
I would
I'd
fire
vote for Ron in the U.S.
I would fire 150,000 government employees.
Out the gate. Just out the gate.
Delete. And I would change the law so that you're allowed to defend yourself.
Okay.
And I would make defending your home legal. And I would make using your firearm to defend your home legal. I would bring in a castle law.
Mandatory.
If you don't, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
Don't you have a gun? Why didn't you take care of this? Why'd you call us?
All I just heard is that Ron wants to move to South Carolina. That's all I just heard.
Yeah, basically.
Could be Texas.
Yeah. I would make it so you can defend yourself and your home and your loved ones without having to worry about the police charging you with murder. and I would lower the taxes and take a chainsaw to the government.
All right. What about butter tarts? Would you do anything for the butter tarts?
The butter tarts are fine. They can stay just the way they are.
All right, good.
Yeah.
I like that.
The butter tart situation has never been a problem here. They're plentiful and bountiful, and I would make sure they continue to be.
They should be traded more into the U.S.
We got a little rant, guys. I'm not going to go on a Ron rant, but I was disappointed at my grocery store. The Michigan, as of this week, is cage-free eggs only. And as a result, the eggs that I normally buy are no longer available. I get cheap eggs and I use the whites, and then I get fancy eggs and I use the yolks. But I eat a lot more whites than I do yolks, so I don't want to spend all that money. Anyway, the only eggs I can buy now are in styrofoam packages. You can't recycle them. I like to recycle. I think it's important that we try to, take care of our environment. But now I am going through so many packages of styrofoam. It's very disappointing.
Damn. Okay.
I see that.
Yeah. Just want to throw that out there. That's all I got.
Interesting. Just leave it right there.
We're back to styrofoam?
Yeah, I know. You would think we were done with that by now.
Yeah, that's like so 88.
Yeah. In Canada, you can't even use plastic straws anymore, I don't think.
Why don't you use egg whites or egg beaters and save yourself money and time?
It's cheaper. Our eggs, for the cheap eggs, were like $1.79 a dozen.
Mm-hmm. But is it still cheaper now?
I have to look into that now. I just bought them because it's what I
normally
Walmart
do. Near you?
Of course, yeah.
Dude, the egg beaters there are cheap. Like the 32 ounce thing, cheap. And they even look yellow, which makes me happy when I mix them because I feel like I'm eating a whole egg.
Okay.
I'm not.
Okay.
Yeah. Fantastic and very cheap.
Questions.
Just like me.
Yeah.
Still zeros across the board other than the protein. Yeah.
Okay.
Good. Huh. I'll send you a little picture, Scott. Change your life.
But is that yellow RFK approved?
I've used Tren.
That yellow is not approved. That's an orange that doesn't occur in nature.
That's my answer to everything at this point.
What color orange is that? That's Tren orange.
Yeah.
I want it dark.
It's going to be a new Crayola. It's going to be a new crayon color this year for kids.
And you're like, this is definitely going to kill me.
Yeah.
I'm surprised it didn't.
Amber. Tren Amber.
I'm actually having my truck wrapped in Tren Amber at some point.
Tren Amber. It looks like a bronze statue.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. Mom, I got a new crayon. Yeah.
That's great. Oh, shit, I wanted like a strong finisher. I'm a little mad about this.
Yeah, sorry I couldn't deliver on the rant. I knew it was going to fall short of what Ron could do, but I wanted to.
Oh, no, that was okay.
You're not angry enough about it. That's the problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're more disgruntled.
Little.
You weren't really angry. You're just disgruntled.
He's disappointed. He's not mad. He's just disappointed, like my mother most of her life.
I was going to mention, you guys ever watch a movie? So I got to bring up a movie.
Okay.
So we watch movies. We love our movies, right? And Netflix has been making a lot of movies.
Yeah.
Netflix is in the movie game. They've got a model where they get a good, simple script that doesn't have, if you notice this, Netflix is doing these movies where there's minimal set. Like maybe the whole movie takes place in a mall and a school.
Okay.
Right? And there's minimal actors. Maybe there's only like 6 or 7 characters in the whole movie.
Huh.
And there's not a lot of wacko special effects. It's maybe more of a story-based script.
Yeah.
So really, the overhead is super low. And then what they do is they get a famous actor, someone big.
Yeah.
Like maybe they get Brad Pitt and George Clooney, for example, for that Netflix movie they just did called Wolves. Or was it an Apple movie? I can't remember if it's Apple or Netflix. But these streaming services have this model.
Yeah.
Where they say to those guys, okay, those guys are what, $20 million movie guys?
Yeah.
Right? Typically for like a big one, right?
Yeah. Right.
They'll say, okay, well, your price for a movie is like $20 million. But we got this simple little Netflix script. It'll only take 4 weeks to shoot. So we'll give you $2 million. and it's shot on location in Los Angeles. You don't have to leave your home.
Huh.
So you get $2 million. You don't even have to leave home. It'll be 4 weeks worth of work. So they're getting these big actors to do these simple little movies that are, if you watch them, you notice they're not grand in their scope. Like they don't have the big Hollywood sort of production. It's like smaller stories. Some of them are okay. Some of them are good. It's like wham, bam. They punch out a movie and they're fun. And some of them are terrible. We watched a terrible movie on the weekend.
Oh, that disappoints me.
We watched Carry On.
Okay.
Oh, yes. I'm so happy because we watched it too.
So I love Jason Bateman, right? I love Jason Bateman. He's great. Ozark was awesome. Arrested Development was awesome. He's made a bunch of great movies. Horrible Bosses, like the whole 9 yards, right? Great actor. And so we fire up Carry On. And it was the exact thing I'm talking about, where they have just this simple script that's not even been proofread. And they just probably give Jason Bateman $1 million for, it was probably a week's worth of work for him to do that movie. Probably took him a week. They could have shot all his scenes in a matter of days. And there's minimal actors in it. They shoot it, boom, boom, punch it out. And it was so terrible. There were so many plot holes. It was brutal. It was agony to watch that movie. And I cannot believe that those movies get made. I can't believe that anyone at Netflix watched that and they're like, fantastic, punch it out for Christmas.
Yeah.
There's a guy who has an entire account devoted to plot holes. And he did like 10 reels on Carry On in a row. He just kept punching out reel
That's
after reel.
amazing. I got to follow that guy now.
Yeah. It's just
that kind of.
just amazing, just terrible stuff. Like, you know, things you're watching the character do it and you're like, this wouldn't happen. Someone would notice. It's Christmas time at an airport.
Yeah.
Someone would notice this behavior. He was no way he would get away with that. There would be a supervisor wondering what the fuck he was doing.
Yeah.
There's like just this over and over. It was brutal. And it was just a reminder that sometimes the streaming services can punch out a good movie, these real quick little whack that they're doing. And then sometimes you know where that Hollywood went, and it did not go into that movie. Yeah.
I got to tell you something, Ron. So we just talked about this last night because we saw that movie maybe a week or two ago. And it was one of those ones like multiple times during the movie, something dumb happens. And you just look over at Emily or Nikki and you see them doing the same thing. Like, you know what I mean? It's just way off. So Nikki, we laugh about it. The movie ends. We made it to the whole movie. And first thing I thought is, you know, the base of this movie could have worked.
Oh, it could have worked. Could have been a new Die Hard.
Could have been phenomenal. Like
Christmas
the
Eve
idea of the
in an airport
was phenomenal. So we laugh about it. Well, Nikki follows a lot of like makeup girls that are like famous for their different makeup. And one of them put up a story and said, Carry On, a must-see movie.
Oh.
So Nikki tells me this, and I'm dying. I'm like, she called it a must-see movie. But then a few days later, she releases her top 25 movies of all time, and Carry On is on the list. I told her, I said, I would not trust her makeup ideas anymore if that is what she considers a movie.
Someone's paying her to say that. Yeah.
It was terrible. I'm so glad you saw that.
The plot holes were brutal. Yeah. Just something.
How many people will watch this? Will watch Carry On now just to know how bad it is?
Yeah.
Not good at all. That's great. I'm glad you saw that. And you guys still have not gotten into Landman, which disappoints me because that show is fantastic. Unless you work in the oil field, don't watch it. If you do, I'm sure there's 10,000 things that are terrible. But for those of us who've never done it, great show. And Billy Bob Thornton to me is drastically underrated actor.
He's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it. I haven't started it yet. We finished Yellowstone, and we're pounding out some movies that we wanted to see. We watched a wacky art house movie last night called The Substance with Demi Moore.
Anything with Demi Moore is fine, which she's also in Landman, just so you know.
It was definitely an art house, like supposed to be very unsettling and odd, you know.
Yeah.
And it we liked it. We liked it because it was weird and really messed up, and it was like a metaphorical movie. You know, it was good. It got a thumbs up from us because we like wacky shit. So yeah, it was enjoyable.
Nice. We should do an episode where Ron just reviews movies. I think everyone would be on board.
We could fill the whole episode, I'm sure.
Easily.
Well, I like weird. We like weird stuff. We like weird stuff. The stuff that's kind of weird and out there. I like that a little bit. It's good.
Yeah.
My vote's still for Fargo, the TV show.
Yeah. No. Hey. Still. I went and found it again.
Did
Make
you?
sure it was on my list. Yeah,
So I went through the other day, Ron, and I was looking for clips to send you from the show, and I got sucked in to watching clips, and I didn't want to send any of them because it was either like, do I want this clip to be the representation of Fargo that Ron sees, or I'd be like, I think that gives away a little bit too much, so I didn't end up sending you anything because it was either too far in either one of those directions.
Right. I know what you mean. I like to watch stuff with no idea what's going on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes it's important though. That's how I got Nikki to watch Peaky Blinders with me the first time.
Ooh.
I showed her one clip on YouTube.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then she was like, "When are we starting?" I'm like, "Now seems like a good time."
Okay.
And we started that day.
You did watch Boardwalk Empire, right, Dusty?
No.
Oh, no. You got to stop everything you're doing and start watching that immediately.
All right. I just hit this hang up button real quick. Click.
Yeah.
I never watched it either.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What's his Steve Buscemi?
Steve Buscemi. He's in both, right?
Yeah, he's basically like the big guy running Atlantic City.
Yeah.
When Atlantic City was buildings literally built right on the beach, he
That was
runs
the
that
HBO
town.
show. Yeah.
It's very good. Like I'd put it up there as like I'd call it a 10 out of 10 TV show.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. And it's like liquor days, right? Like when liquor was illegal and all that in the 20s.
Starts, I think, like 1919, something like that.
Yeah.
And some stuff happens, man. Like, I can't tell you, obviously, but some stuff happens in there where I'm like, I can't believe they did that. You know, I can't believe like, that guy. I thought, no, I won't even say. I won't even
Guys
say.
get killed over stuff, man.
Oh, yeah. That was a crazy time, man. That really was. And they do a real good job too with the age, the way Peaky Blinders did as well. Like you feel in this case like this is what Atlantic City would have been like at that time.
Right.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. On the list starting today because I just got one Landman to watch today and then I'm dry.
We looked up Steve Buscemi, and he was like a blue collar worker initially.
Yeah. Reservoir Dogs was a big deal for him.
Yeah. He was like,
Mr.
and
Pink.
I feel like because he was like
got to be Mr. Pink.
a blue collar guy that then got into acting and became very successful, you can see like he's worked acting. Like when you look at how many movies he's been in and how much work he's done, he's worked acting like a blue collar worker would work it. And I kind of get the vibe that Boardwalk Empire, he's kind of reaching into some of things that he maybe relates to in himself. You know, being a guy that he's making it his own. Let's put it this way: he's doing his own thing. He's making it his own way in through the world. You know, doing pretty well for himself too.
Yeah,
just saved it. It's going in. I'll review next week. Promise.
All right.
Okay.
Fantastic. Well, I think that's what we got for today.
Yeah, I'm fine. I was happy to see you guys.
Likewise.
Hectic.
I'm happy to see making Canada great again soon, hopefully.
Oh, I'm not getting too excited too soon. Our apathy has been magnified and our excitement has been lowered. We're just like until he's gone. It's just you know what I mean?
Just more empty promises for now.
Yeah, it's like you just don't know where the lies end and the disappointment ends. You're like, I'm sure there's a way he can make this worse. So yeah, it's a shit show. It's a big deal for Canada to get rid of that guy, the easily worst prime minister we have ever had in like centuries. How long holds a country? Jesus. Like, since we captured your White House, He's the worst president we've been under. Worst prime minister we've been under. So, yeah, it's important, but unfortunately, I think we have to make sure the Liberals don't win the next election. That's the main thing, because if they win the next election again with a different leader,
same shit.
More taxes, more spending, more feel good about giving money. You feel good about giving this money? You must feel good about giving this money. Yeah. It's been great. It's been great. Scandal after scandal, billions of dollars missing, unaccounted for. No one accountable for anything. No one going to prison for anything. What a fantastic time to be Canadian. So, there you go.
Victoria met somebody who I can't remember what he had to do with, but it was politics, and he knew a lot of Canada stuff. And he said that whoever the guy is that everybody's hoping that you'll get in, he's going to bring oil back to Canada, and that Alberta real estate is the place to invest. If he gets in, that's going to explode.
Well, seeing as Canada technically should be the richest country in the world, but we just refuse to allow that to happen because that might be mean. It might be mean if we're richer than everyone else. It'd be horrible. What kind of people would we be? We should willingly make our country poor so that we don't contribute to greenhouse gases, even though we would be a decimal point of the contribution.
Yeah, makes sense if you don't think about it.
Right. Yeah, makes sense if you don't think about it. I know. I don't want to get political, though.
You see how I almost got him? If I push this a little further, we'd have full rants.
We're on the edge, Dusty. We're on the edge.
You know how you guys had... Yeah, just like that whole weaponized... If weaponized compassion was a political party, it would be the Liberals. Right? You know what I mean?
That's amazing. That's a great line.
You must feel bad. You must get poorer. Yeah.
That'll make you feel good, though.
Oh, it will make you feel great.
Yeah.
Okay. Remember, everybody. What are they remembering? Like, share, subscribe, comment, and
ring the bell.
There you go. I was just kidding that I didn't remember. That was my just kidding face. 2025. It's exciting. It's bizarre. I remember just the other day I was joking about how I went to a wedding on Y2K.
Huh.
New Year's Eve, Y2K, I was at a wedding. We were like, well, I guess power might go out. Remember Y2K?
Oh, yeah.
Who knows? Never know. It might be the last party we go to.
That's part of many talks at a coffee house about what was going to happen. The computers are all going to shut down and the
banks are going to go to zero.
Everything's going to reset.
The bank's going to think that it's January 1st of 000. And now your money's going to disappear. Remember the whole date reset thing they were worried about?
Yeah.
It was this weird, And then it was all right.
It worked out the next day. We all woke up and the shit was the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, guys. Remember, Mutant, IamMutant.com. Get your ice surge, get your all in it. Everyone should get on the gear. Yeah, I love that shirt, Scott.
Me too.
Remember the Think Big Bodybuilding Patreon. Keep the producer homed. And we have a guest for next week, don't we?
We do.
Set up.
One that we have
look forward to.
Yeah, we have a big guest next week. And then we have another guest the week after that.
And I think we're getting things lined up. We might be going back to back to back with guests for a minute here. So
we have at least 2 guests in a row.
Yes.
I'll work on the third. I'm going to work on the third.
Yeah. Okay. I'm very excited. Next week should be fun.
Oh, it'll be real fun.
Keep your eyes peeled. We'll announce soon. Okay. Thanks, everybody. And remember, it's just bodybuilding.